Hi Dolores, how are you keeping?
Good, Alan, and you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. I'm very interested and I'm going to talk to you. I know you're a big fan of the emergency plan and getting parents to do it, and you speak about it in the webinars. I've seen articles you wrote on it as well. So just to explain to you, what is the emergency plan? What is that first?
Okay, so for instance, what it is, there's actually two. So it's if you're a parent of a child with additional needs, what do you do? Who do you contact if something happens to your child
Okay.
in an emergency and you've other children to deal with? Are they at work, or they're at school, or you're at work, or they're at rehab care, wherever? You need a plan immediately. And the other emergency plan, similar, but if one of the child's siblings, so your other children, if anything happens them, what emergency plan have you got then for, say, David? So it's like two. I hope I'm not overcomplicating it here now.
Yeah, no, I get it. There's kind of two sides to it. There's one where obviously you said, like, if your child with additional needs, if something happens to them, but obviously what I find with yourself, and even when I see yourself, you're like full-time care and all that, you just can't clock out. You know what I mean? In the sense, you just can't not be a carer for a couple of weeks, this kind of, so therefore, as you said, then if it was on the other side, you still need to know what's happening there. So how do you go about doing this? Is it obviously it's a written document, you have to sit down and plan? Is that what you're encouraging parents to do?
Please do, because I didn't.
Okay.
And that's why I want other parents to do it.
Do you
So
mind
for
talking
instance,
what actually happened? Well, what was it that?
so I'll give you two scenarios. So the scenario one, say, is Dave fell.
Did he?
Yeah, years and years ago. He was going out to his dad in the car. I saw him going out to his dad. I thought his dad was getting out of the car to him. He thought Dave would stop because David was all excited at the time. And it was a perfect day, say. David fell.
Jeez.
Now, David also has a startle reflex that, in actual fact, even though for years of therapy, so for instance, if you go to fall, most people generally will put their hands out to protect them. David's startle reflex is quite severe as well, so that when he goes to fall, he'll pull back as opposed to go forward, so he fell. He had to be taken to the hospital immediately, but I had another two children here who were very young at the time. So, first of all, I wouldn't have been in a fit state to drive. So, Michael drove. I held David in the back. I had no neighbours living where I lived at the time. My sister lives 40 minutes away. And I have twins, as you know, who were younger. So I had to ring people who were up the road to say, get down to my house immediately, which they did. And they said, we're on our way. They do live like 5-10 minutes away, but
Yeah.
I didn't know them very, very well. I said, can you go down to my house and just stay with Sean and Kate while we bring David to the hospital? I rang my sister then, who is 40 minutes away, and said, can you go back down to my house to take over from the couple who are down the road to mind them, and can you stay with Sean and Kate until I'm back from the hospital? And luckily, everyone said yes, yes, yes.
Okay, but you were making all these decisions on the
While I
cuff,
was
on
holding David in the
the
back seat of the
stress,
car,
and trying to figure things out. And as you said,
trying
just
to
what?
figure out, would I get an ambulance to meet us halfway?
Yeah, and as almost as well, like if your sister just for some reason just didn't answer her phone, no, you were scuppered in the sense. Now it's kind of like a thing. She just thought you might be ring for. How would she know? No, that kind of way. So what you're saying to parents is, don't let the event happen and try to figure out. What you're saying is, why don't you write out a plan that if something goes wrong, then you have some kind of set procedure kind of thing. It's almost like, by the sounds of your encouragement, it's almost like a fire drill. Have something, have it written down, and have it almost kind of. Can you practice it? Is that something that's practical?
Well, you hope in your life you never have to use it.
Yeah, fair point.
But really, come on. They're children. There is a time you can't wrap them in cotton wool as much as you want to, and it could happen. I wouldn't say a practice drill, but I certainly wouldn't be asking people to step in to my role unless I had a really good relationship with them.
Right.
So it wouldn't be somebody that I would say, you know what, if this ever happens, you're to do this, this, and this. They'd be somebody that would be in my life constantly, that I would be talking to on a regular basis, who actually would know my stories, know the setup, know what David and Sean and Kate are like. Right,
They'd
people who
almost be very much like the Guardian type people would very much obviously probably the people you ask, because they probably, you might have already gone through the hospital passport and the letter, so they'd have some concept as well, exactly what they're coming down, you know, what needs to happen if David's at home or if it's the kids kind of thing, is it?
exactly, but you have to be careful then because a lot of the guardians could live a lot further away
Yeah,
than you are. So that's where neighbors and friends are so important. And that's why it's very good for all of us to keep those relationships going, you know?
Talk to me, tips, what would be in the emergency plan? Just give kind of brief, what would parents should be thinking and writing down?
Well, you'd want to have them on your speed dial anyway first. You know, I'd say to my sister now, she knows if I say it's an emergency, she's going, right, where are you? That's the next thing that's said. What do you want me to do? And she's got a plan. Now, my sister's older than I am, a good few years older, which she hates saying, but she is.
Hopefully
And
she doesn't see this video.
yeah. So, but she has daughters who are in their 40s. So if she can't get to me, one of them can.
Okay, you have a backup almost
So
as
I
well.
have a good backup plan. I'm lucky now where I live, I have lovely neighbours. Some of them have young kids, so they're nearly always around. So I have a good relationship with all of them around. Not only that, they all know David and Sean and Kate. Well, Sean and Kate are older now, of course, but they all know David. So they all can see his way about him and everything like that. So I have a good plan now. But for anybody who's starting the emergency plan, someday when you're going for a walk with your friends or your neighbours, just say to them, you know what? Just wondering that if anything happened, say, Dave, would you be in a position to run into my house and mind my other kids? Or would your, your husband or your partner be in a position to be able to do that? And I tell you, 99% they'll say, of course, not a problem. And sometimes they even say, like, do you want me to take a spare key? But then remember too, it works the other way around. So just because they may not have a child with additional needs, may need that, sometimes they may need you. So be prepared to step into that role too for other people. You know, it works both ways, really.
Okay, I think that gives us, I think the importance of it, that really highlights the importance of having the emergency plan. You know, obviously, hopefully parents can go and start obviously getting their emergency plan wrote out. And as you said, then not to be doing it when the event occurs, really having some, some procedure, some kind of stuff there that you can fall back on. And as you said, hopefully makes this kind of frightening time a little bit, less.
Exactly. And I would say to if you're on your own there and something happens with one of your children, ask somebody else to drive.
That's a good point, yeah.
So you can sit with the person, even if it's only consoling them, and even if they're 18 and after, hurting their leg, you really don't need to be driving, watching that rear view mirror to see are they okay in the back. So if you can call somebody else to drive you there, it's a great bonus. The other thing I would really suggest is if it is your child with additional needs, you do need to get to the hospital, phone the hospital in advance.
Okay.
And say, I'm on my way. Is there anywhere I can get into the back of the hospital without going through any? This is an emergency. And sometimes if they're able, or depending who you'd meet, they might say, well, after informing the porter on the door, they're going to bring you straight in. So just that phone call
to preempt, obviously, that you have a child with additional needs and here's the additional complications coming in. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they may even say, if you actually drive around where the ambulance is, we can take you straight in from there. So those little things really. Or again, if somebody who was part of your emergency plan was the designated driver, they may be able to do that for you as well.
Okay, I think that's good, Dolores. I think that'll help our parents. Thanks for your time.
Okay, hopefully you'll never need it.
Hopefully not.
Thanks.